I wanted to circle back to the relationships with the MPD, BPD type thing. So you had mentioned that was how you first noticed that your ex, when he was trying to take your supplements, etc., and you called him out on it. That's how you first noticed he was borderline.
No, he told me when we met, to be fair. So right, yeah. But the thing is with me, like I was like, you know, he's traumatized. So are most people. And it's true, we all traumatized, but that doesn't mean that we have to rescue everyone. And this is the biggest message I want to get out to people as well. If you're the type that likes to caretake, you know, look after, rescue, what people call the codependent types, you have to know when to stop giving your time and energy to people, because there are people who will use it for their own advantage, whether they're just not realizing they're doing it or they're intentionally using you. So even though he told me that, you know, that was the case, you know, we were friends for a bit, and then I don't know, I was captivated. And that's often the case with people who are personality disorders, both with like highly narcissistic people and borderlines. They're just something about them.
It's the energy, I think. That's what I've struggled with. Because did he love bomb you, do the old stages, love bomb, the value, discard, or it wasn't quite so clear and cut?
No, there wasn't really that love bombing from me. It was just, he was quite open, I guess, with it, because it was my tattoo artist, basically. And so you spend a lot of time chatting with someone when you're under the needle for a long time. You know, we really got on, we had similar interest, and I could see like he put his vulnerable part, his inner child, quite like openly, and I respected that. Someone who just didn't have boundaries, basically, put himself out there. And I thought, oh, okay. And I saw this pure like angelic side to him, and I just like, the rescuer in me, the wanting to mother, kind of like took my curiosity. And just the fact that he was different, I sensed he was different. He told me that, and up until then I'd read about borderline personality disorder, I'd studied it, and but to me it was an abstract concept. I hadn't met anyone like that, so I was just captivated. I was curious. And also, side note, I was not happy at the time. I'd gotten out of a bad relationship, and I was wanting to like be distracted. I was looking for a distraction, and that's when you keep your guard down the most.
Absolutely. Now they do have that, you said, angelic type thing where they act like a child, but you labeled it correctly. It's because they don't have any boundaries. I'll catch myself doing very similar things where I'll tell people too much about myself and like want to tell a life story before I even know someone, and it just kind of like comes right out. But I've learned it's not a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to do that at all. And like my ex-girlfriend, the one who was covert narcissistic herself, she did the actual stages. She did the love bombing, the devalue, the discard. And it wasn't until later I realized she did the same kind of love bombing on everyone. She acted the exact same way, and then the same things would happen with each person that she did this with. But the narcissistic person, like, they bulldoze boundaries, but they don't really have any boundaries of their own, because I think a lot of times they just don't know who they are, and so they'll just mirror like whoever they're with, whoever they're love bombing, they'll be that person. And so like my likes and interests became her likes and interests. But they keep on doing that down the line. They'll keep on doing that to everyone they meet. But they don't have anything of their own, because they don't really know who they are. They're only just chameleons, basically.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I find that the life coaching industry, the new age industry, the spirituality, the self-help industry, it is packed, I tell you, with wolves dressed in lamb's clothing. Is that the expression? No, is that the expression? I don't know. There's a lot of covert narcs out there, and they
wolf in sheep's clothing is what it is.
Yeah, sheep's. So I put lamb's clothing. There we go. there's an expression in England called mutton dressed like lamb, but anyway, in the life coaching industry, this is what put me off really like pushing my coaching. When I trained in counseling, and for me, I retrained in coaching because I felt with my counseling practice that spent too much time talking about the past. I was working with people who are dealing with trauma, and it's just re-traumatizing to keep talking about certain events. And I thought there must be a way to speed up the process to make it less painful. And I had heard about coaching. It works in the here and now and what you want to achieve and like goal achievement. I'm like, great, okay, I can learn this, train in this, and then apply the two together for like, super sane living, powerful living. Uh, and so I started to go to expos, went to a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within thing. And that really put me off life coaching. The ego of the people, the egos of these guys, not just there is.
How did it portray itself there? That's what I'm curious about. Because like, what was it that kind of rubbed you the wrong way about the Robbins seminars? Was it
So many
just the way people act there?
Well, before I get to the Tony Robbins things, there are a few like expos in the UK which now is just all about life coaching, and all it is just people with their stands and saying like, how to make lots of money, or just saying really basic stuff, but trying to create a cult of personality. And that, my friend, is what put me off. And I saw that exemplified in Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within. It became very clear to me when I walked in that this is just another cult. Absolutely. They're trying to create the energy and raise the energy by getting people to high five you. He's got like hundreds of volunteers who are working there, and they just come up to you and went to high five. And I was on my own, okay? It's not the kind of thing I go to. A friend of mine was selling their ticket at a cheap price, so I thought, okay, why not? This was a few years ago. I just started as a coach. So I get in there, I'm by myself, and someone's asking me to high five, and I'm like, not interested, leave me alone. I'm glaring at them like, nah, fam, let's get away. Anyway, and we get to the
seat. Looking at you like this, get away, you negative Nancy.
I know. I'm a socially awkward person anyway. I'm not really like great at large events. I wanted to learn. I wanted to see how Tony did it, and I got into the area, and takes ages for it to start. And I see how he's doing it. He's playing music, just awful mainstream music, some like electronic dance crap, and he's got a dance pit, and people are dancing. He's just like raising the energy, getting people worked up, excited. And that's where actually the golf coach branding came in at first. I just thought I would put metal music in and just get people moshing about, and it would just be so much more fun.
It sounds like that place gave you some trauma just going there.
Oh yeah. The thing was like a couple of days, and I left after 4 hours. I stayed for Tony, so Tony came on, and everyone's like praising him, and here comes your savior, the Messiah is here, and he delivers his message. It's the way he talks is great, by the way. He is like what he does is really good. There's no denying that. But I'm just watching how people are responding to him, and it's like, put him on a pedestal, all projecting their inner gold onto him, like the Messiah has come to save them, and he's asking people to like high five each other, and like he said, okay, so you have to turn to the person on your left and say, I'm gonna like make more sounds in you, and you have to like shout each other down and create more sounds. And I'm like, why? What is this survey? Why are you doing this? I'm not into like cringy stuff, like cheesy stuff.
That is so cringeworthy to me too, because I hate the little small talk kind of stuff that has to happen in those kind of settings. I could be the person talking on stage. I have no problems being that person, but having to be the person mingling amongst the crowd and having that little small talk, that's just like makes me want to throw up in my mouth. I can't even like think about doing it. And so a little high-fiving stuff, I wouldn't be good at that either. I'd be good at being Tony, but not all that rest of the stuff you'd have to be. I would hate all that. And like you though, I get the coaching philosophy. I like it how it's about goal-oriented and doing things in the now. But where I draw the line is some of the things that Tony says is that, you can be worth whatever you say you're worth. If you want to charge $2,000 an hour, then you're worth $2,000 an hour. And I don't know, I just think that kind of thing really does a disservice to the whole coaching field, where they're charging more than people who have gone to school for 10 to 12 years to study their profession as a doctor. And it's like, but no, here you are. You went to a Tony Robbins coaching seminar or coaching class, and here you can go charge $2,000 an hour. Who cares? I just think that smears. It smears the whole field. When people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, you coaches are just snake oil salesmen," which we'll get into the snake stuff too. Another good segue, but that's how it is.
It's true. I was so put off by the industry. It became clear to me it was just a cult of personality. It's just someone who is deliberately presented as someone who can heal all, and they must be adored and loved. And that's a healing in
He does claim
itself.
that too. He claims he's never had a suicide, so he claims that he can cure people with depression or bipolar disorder because he says, "I've never had someone commit suicide in all the years that I've spoken to them." So, like, what is that claim? Is that a claim? I'm not going to say it's a claim of maybe not curing mental illness is what he's saying, but he's saying no one's ever committed suicide. It's been around him, so he's making some sort of claims that who knows if they're true or not, really. But I think it's a little above and beyond what he probably should be doing.
Right. Well, I mean, end of the day, I mean, it inspired the goth coach thing, to be honest, because it was a play on the stereotype of goths being like enamored with suffering and death and all that, and the dark side. And for me, that is on an inner level, I'm quite fascinated with like the symbolic inner death, because what trauma does is after you're traumatized, you can only come out of CPTSD, PTSD trauma. You can only come out of it differently. You can't emerge from the same place you came. You're not the same person anymore. A part of you has to die in a sense. But that's the thing, with death comes resurrection, the resurrection of your spirit, of your new sense of self. It can be stronger or it can be more depleted. You have a choice. So
I've been seeing a lot about that today too, where they say a lot of people try to become the person they were before the trauma or before the terrible relationship, and it's just like, hey, that person doesn't exist anymore. That person's gone. So you got to reinvent yourself. And part of this, I think, is part of like integrating the shadow, as Carl Jung would say, right? Trying to integrate both sides of your personality. And this is just me speculating, but I think a lot of people who fail to integrate their shadow properly, they often wind up in these relationships with people who are personality disordered, etc. They have this naive way of looking at the world, and these predators in the form of like MPD or BPD type people come in. And it's usually the codependent types people who are in this kind of setting, right? They attract those narcissists and BPDs like moths to the light, and they're not who they really could be, because like being virtuous is not being harmless, right? So people who integrate their shadows, like they have the ability to be really tough and strong, but they know when and when not to use it, and I think that's a big difference. But like you said, though, the coming out of it and becoming the new person, I think that's what a lot of people are afraid of, and they don't know how to be that new person that whatever they've gone through has turned them into, and they're afraid of it. Like they turned into the butterfly, and they look back at their little caterpillar self, and they're like, man, I wish I could be like that again or something. Well, instead, it's like, hey, we can learn things from the traumatic experiences in our life and the people who have been abusive. And I think for me, they've made me a better version of myself. They've made me tougher. And so now, yeah, I'm not going to be as naive as I used to be, but I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And now that I'm a tougher, better version of myself.
Well, exactly. And we will keep getting lessons, and they'll get harder and harder until we finally get the hint that we need to put our guards up and be more discerning about who we give our time and energy to. The codependent people are the peoples who are wants to just drop everything and let themselves be too open and easily, readily available with their time, with their energy, with their thoughts, thinking about them so much. And that's the journey, isn't it? It's to love yourself and respect yourself more, to think no. Absolutely. To do,
people don't appreciate it. People don't appreciate what you give so freely. So if you're going to give your time, attention, love so freely, people don't appreciate that. It's just like the laws of supply and demand kind of thing. It's like people respect and value what they had to earn, what they had to work towards. And that's true for everyone. It's just the way it is. If you're too giving, too loving, too nice, too soon, people walk all over you. And it's just the fact of life. It's just the way it is. And so I've had to learn that myself the hard way, of course. But I think it's been knocked into my head enough times, so now I get it. It's like, okay, don't be so open. Don't be so giving of your time and attention. Like, many people earn it.
Yeah. And it's also an opportunity to really think, why does this keep happening? And it comes from a point in the past when someone told you, in a way, they modeled it for you, they showed it to you, or they actually told you that you are wrong for shining, you are wrong for saying, you're being selfish for choosing yourself, you have to like drop everything for family, whatever. There's a story there that's shaming you for actually being self-assertive and voicing your needs. At some point, because of shame, out of guilt as well, we hide our voice, we fawn, it's submission kind of response, isn't it, when we end up always being the caretakers, putting other people's needs before ours. It comes from childhood. It always does. At some point in your life, someone's either modeled it for you, like a parent, and you've unconsciously learned that that's how people like you, or you were downright shamed by a family member for standing in your light, whatever it is.
Yep, I agree completely with that, because my parents were the exact same way. My dad was like the covert narcissist. My mom was more codependent. And back to our good old buddy Tony, he did say something I really did appreciate. He said that, who did you have to be for your parents to love you? And like whoever that person was is often someone that was guilted and shamed a lot if they did not act a certain way. So for me, it was, if I had my own sense of boundaries or my own sense of autonomy, I was guilted and shamed for doing so. It was being sub-communicated to put other people's needs first. What they think is more important than what you think. And that was constantly being sub-communicated. But I really liked, I'm not sure if you've heard of this channel before, but Charisma on Command, he has an expression, and he says, it's the social value of honest conflict is greater than the social value of dishonest harmony. And a lot of people, I think, who grew up as codependents or has a codependent parent, that's exactly what they do wrong. They're trying to have this dishonest harmony all the time, putting other people's needs first. But all it does is build resentment in the actual person. And I can see it so clearly in my life. That's exactly how it went down. Sounds like how it might have been in some of your life too. But it's like I had to get through that shame of having boundaries, because that was the experience I've had. It's like I was more codependent, and it was like I had to get through that guilt and shame of doing what was best for me. And eventually, like, I'm able to get through it. But it was really hard at first. You feel so guilty. Oh no, I told this person no, or I told this person like what I thought was acceptable and not acceptable. But you're so used to not doing that because of what you're taught as a child growing up, that it's like really uncomfortable at first. But you know, we get uncomfortable to get comfortable kind of thing, and it's always that